Stans are toxic. I'm going to set that off there. Admitting or claiming that you are a stan unintentionally brands you as a toxic fan, considering what the word derives from. And it's important to read the thread that Josh wrote. He's not referring to fans who just enjoy his content or his friends' content. He's not referring to people who support and enjoy him. He's talking about the people that go and make NSFW artwork of them, fan fictions, or do various things that make them uncomfortable, that they've voiced to make them uncomfortable. You didn't respect his boundaries when he set them in the first place, and reasonably so he got mad, just like I'm pretty sure any one of us would have. Carson has also expressed things that make him and his friends or fellow content creators uncomfortable and upset, and instead of respecting his boundaries and stopping the actions, you all rioted and continued to do them. Now, Josh's thread read, "If you're a stan or part of a Twitter group or participate in any activities associated with the culture, please unfollow. I cannot tolerate it any longer and wish to have nothing to do with it. I don't care if it has to do with me or someone else, the culture is toxic. Every experience that I've ever had with the community is negative. I'm sick of looking at Instagram and seeing that I'm tagged in yet another edit made with some garbage phone app. I'm tired of random people obsessing over me and more so obsessing over people such as Dream. These people are unwell mentally. Their obsessions with online personalities only amplify this. They are immature and easily influenced. Their principles and views are never their own, but rather those of people who various content creators which they watch. They are malicious hive mind who exist in a bubble with which immoral actions are taken by an individual simply because their moral frame of reference is people who do similar things. Their worldview is completely insane and gets exponentially worse because of it. Twitter has helped amplify this, as a platform has become overrun by this garbage. So please, if you're a part of any of these circles, I want nothing to do with you or your collective hive mind. It's disgusting. I believe primarily in the individual, and the culture of the individual does not exist in the collective that is Stan or Twitter community. It is repulsive and entirely against my principles. If you're a part of one of these communities, I suggest you leave. Even if leaving means losing your friends, you should do it, as those people most likely weren't friends to begin with. This beast needs to be slaughtered, and it's absolutely horrifying that it exists." Now, the biggest issue that a lot of people had with it was what I just discussed. People saying that he was disrespectful to his fans, and like, how could you say those things about people who got you where you are? But as we've already established, it's not really the case he's talking about. Some doesn't mean all, and if you're taking offense to it, it's probably because you are who he's talking about. I mean, if the shoe fits, then fucking wear it. But something that I didn't see a lot of people touching on, but I really did want to talk about, is the hive mind mob mentality tangent he went on. You know, with the culture that the internet has today, we have normalized obsessive traits and have created a breeding ground for hive mind and mob mentality. It's easy to look at a tweet and separate the human from it. I was going to touch on this in my next video about trigger warnings on people, but I guess I'll discuss it slightly here as well. It's easy to dehumanize people when they have a following. Idolizing people you don't know and giving them the opportunity to fall from this pedestal placed on them, giving them the opportunity to disappoint you, talking about someone like Leafy who makes jokes on the internet that you don't know personally as if he's this bully. It dehumanizes them. Schlatt said something on the Weekly Slap that I think I want to use here. Now, this isn't exactly his exact quote, I'm paraphrasing here, but he essentially said that humans weren't made for the serotonin rush of tweeting and getting millions of likes. Humans weren't made for fame, and they weren't made for seeing your face and friends' faces pop up a million times as people's profile pictures. And these people are still humans, and they fuck up. They go through phases. They hopefully grow from. And these people also get uncomfortable by certain things that we do, like smut or NSFW tweets or art, which is basically sexual harassment, realistically. I mean, if somebody made NSFW art of you, I think you'd be concerned about it and uncomfortable, right? Now, personally, outside of the Minecraft community, I like 5 Seconds of Summer, and anyone familiar with them knows how often they get shot down for random ass shit. And one of these things that keep getting brought up is a tweet from Michael, their guitarist, who tweeted something with the word faggot in it. He's 24 now, and he was 15 when he tweeted that. The human brain doesn't develop until 21, and nowhere since this tweet has he said that word, or said anything homophobic. So why are we still attacking a 24-year-old on a 15-year-old him's actions? Calling him homophobic because of something a child said that wasn't even homophobic in the first place. Why are people attacking C-Scoop and Travis for saying they weren't comfortable with gay fan fictions about them years ago? Why are we mad at boundaries being set, or mistakes that humans are making, as if humans shouldn't make mistakes? The internet was once a place where you can share your opinions and have a civil conversation about them, seeing the other side of the coin and having important conversations about topics. Hearing the other side is really important. It's now becoming a place where you feel you're constantly walking on eggshells. There's no uniqueness or difference in opinion because you're forced to just smile and nod. From 2014 to 2017, everyone tried to be as anti-SJW, saying as much crazy shit as they could get away with, which was almost anything, as to separate themselves from the crazy feminists and the quote-unquote snowflakes. And while I love a lot of that content and was raised in a lot of that content, a good portion of it just shouldn't exist or shouldn't have been said in the first place. It was just kids trying to piss people off because the teenagers ran the internet at the time, and they didn't want to be PC. From 2018 to now, all anyone ever is focused on is how to be as woke as we can. From accepting maps as a sexuality to allowing people to make a mockery of the trans community by using neo-pronouns. And don't forget canceling anyone who disagrees with these ideas or has even a slightly differing opinion. The irony of the teenagers who shout Antifa while canceling someone on Twitter for not sharing their opinion is hilarious. These white, cis, male, straight, neurotypical pick-me's acting as if they know our struggles, silencing us as to keep our voices heard. You're not our white knights, and we don't need you to cancel people for us. They bring up the hive mind that the internet creates, where no one's allowed to think differently, creates a place where performative activism also takes place. If you didn't post during the Black Lives Matter movement, you were trending and getting canceled. So obviously, people lied about supporting it and treated it as if it was a way to get followers and look more brandable, instead of actually caring about the injustices and the movement. And when it came out that people were lying about it, like Madison Beer, people were surprised. You forced people to post, you forced people to agree, you forced people to support the movement. And then you got surprised when people lied to make themselves look better. Now the hive mind also shows itself when Stan Twitter takes on every opinion that their fave shares and takes it literally. Frank was a character, Schlatt is a character, Leafy is a character to some degree too. They play a lot of opinions up for comedy, mostly mocking and poking fun at people who actually think that way, or trolling to get a reaction. And when their personal opinions come out to the public and they're not what these stans expected, they get harassed and bombarded with comments calling them simps, saying they're disappointed in them and that they've sold out or gone soft. You have incels that iDubbbz bred that genuinely got disappointed when his girlfriend did something with her own body because they took a few random statements he made over the years about women and assumed what he felt towards sex workers. You have Filthy Frank fans who were disappointed when Joji shares opinions that very much oppose Frank's ideas, as if Frank wasn't a character. You have Schlatt fans that get disappointed when seeing weekly slap videos and seeing he's not this asshole that he claims himself to be on the internet. These stans have no thought for themselves. They jump on the mob mentality of Josh said everyone and getting him trending without reading the thread themselves. Jumping on Schlatt implied every black person when he never mentioned black people or race as a whole besides his own. Jumping on this person is homophobic or this person is racist or this person thinks this way, etc., even though they don't know them or they just forced an implication on something because one person in the comments got mad. We jump on the opinions without thinking for ourselves, and I can't even begin to tell you how terrifying that is and how much problematic situations have come from past actions of everyone following the leader. So this is just an update. He put out another tweet saying, I'm going to put this as concisely as possible so that no one misinterprets it. Stan culture is bad, as a collective shuts down the critical voices and the ability for one to think and speak freely. This has been made self-evident by the events that happened last night. Stan culture is a bubble which many people who have struggled with mental illness do not receive the help they need. Rather, their issues appear to be fed by an obsession with a particular individual. People are saying I hate people who simply enjoy something, and that is not true. I use Dream as an example of someone who was put on a pedestal and never implied that he himself was purposely causing stan culture to proliferate for his own profit. However, in one reply to a person, I did say there was a good chance it was the case. I said that the stan community is tyrannical because it is. It controls this platform with an iron fist by the means of the mob rule. This again is self-evident. Dissenting voices are crushed by the mob while control of the trending page remains in their control. When I said that people in the community are mentally unwell, it was due to their own admission, with hyperfixations being the primary cause of their participation in the community. My point was being a stan is not a healthy way to cope with these issues. I wish nothing but the best for the members of these communities. I hope they can mature or find the help they need to leave this godforsaken place. The culture, not the people who participated in it, is evil. It has been made abundantly clear, and I was correct in what I said. If I regret anything, it is for coming off perhaps too harsh. However, I do stand by everything I said. I never insulted anyone specifically. I was mad and attempted to remain civil. This at least is more than some content creators are able to do. I'm sure I made some mistakes along the way, and as anyone would since we are all human. However, in totality, I have little to no regrets. I hope this has cleared up the matter for some people. I know others will not listen and make it further evident that what I said is true. I wish all of you the best, and I do not regret tweeting anything. This is something badly that needed to be badly said by somebody, and I know that the content creators who profiteer off of it were not going to be the ones to do it. Take care, everyone. This is the last I have to say on Twitter. Which kind of proves my point that I was talking about the, like, how canceling people is, like, whatever. Content, cancel culture is a big form of fascism, which I think people, act like it's not. You don't need to be a Nazi to be a fascist. And I'm very punk in my beliefs, and, but cancel culture is extremely fascist. Shutting down someone's opinion just because, and ruining their career and stuff off of it is because it doesn't match up with your ideas, is exactly what fascism is. Silencing people because it doesn't agree with your agenda, right? Which he kind of mentions here. But I also wanted to touch on the fact that he said people who have struggled with mental illnesses do not receive the help they need. The main issue with hyperfixations, or major issues with the Stan's Twitter, right, is that it's a hyperfixation, which hyperfixations stem from ADHD and autism, which are neurodivergencies, which are disabilities, right? They are developmental disorders and disabilities. I have ADHD. All my friends have ADD, ADHD, or autism. Most of us do. Which, I did tweet a little bit about this. Hyperfixations aren't an excuse. Just the same way that mental illness and developmental disorders or disabilities aren't an excuse. They can be a reason. The reason that you're doing this is because you have a hyperfixation, because you have this disability. It's not a mental illness, it's a disability, right? But at the end of the day, there are things you can do to work on it, right? And that's what you need to be doing, right? There are many hyperfixations that I've had over the years that were extremely unhealthy, and I had to get myself out of them. Before Leafy's channel got banned, once again, there's a difference between hyperfixating on a content creator and in their content, right? Hyperfixating on someone's content and only watching someone's content and just supporting them to this mass, whatever, isn't weird, but it becomes a problem and toxic when you do things that cross lines and etc., right? And when you hyperfixate on a content creator instead of their content and make them uncomfortable, like crossing boundaries. I hyperfixated on Leafy's content for a pretty long little bit, and before his channel got banned, his content was mostly what I was watching. I was hyperfixating on it a lot. And when his channel did get banned, I then hyperfixated a little bit on his Twitch streams, and when his Twitch got banned, I had to find something else to hyperfixate on because I didn't really have anything else to do, right? I have ADHD, and I know how hard it is to get yourself out of a hyperfixation and try to, do something else with your time. But there are things you can do. I know that keeping hobbies for me is personally hard. I know it's not, uncommon with people with ADHD. So find a hobby that you want to pick up again, or just pick up in general. You have to find something to do to put your time into. That you can hyperfixate on instead of people, right? Whether that be drawing or making videos or watching something, even hyperfixating on content is different than a content creator. You know what I'm saying? It's okay to hyperfixate on something. You can't control that. It's not, people, the help that they need. It's not a mental illness disability. You can't control that, right? There's nothing you can do. Even when you take Adderall or Ritalin, it just makes you hyperfixate on other things. That's all it does. It just makes you focus on other things. So there is no helping that, but there is ways that you can work on it and work on what you're doing. You can't control what you hyperfixate on, but you can control your actions. If all you want to watch is Dream SMP content, because that's what you're hyperfixating on, that's fine. But don't overstay your welcome. Don't cross the line. Don't disrespect the boundaries that are set for these people. Don't do things that make them uncomfortable if they've stated that it makes them uncomfortable, right? And even at that point, even if someone doesn't directly say that something makes them uncomfortable, certain things are just implied. Hey, don't write smut about someone. Like, it's sexual harassment. Whether or not they say that it's okay or not, it's harassment. So, yeah, just wanted to add that in. This is a little bit editing after, so I'm sorry if this is very, disorganized, because usually I scripted the first little bit of it to make it easier, because I do have ADHD and my thoughts are very scattered. So I really hope that this wasn't too disorganized, this part, and I hope it made sense. But I just wanted to add that in.